So I did a few assignments, and I think today we are going to see symmetric top. Right. So we know that a vector A can be rotated to A prime by this rotor operator, exponential plus b theta by 2 and exponential minus b theta by 2. So b hat is what we call as a unit bivector. So if you define r as exponential minus b hat theta by 2, then you have A prime as r a r dagger, which is r dagger equal to r dagger r equal to 1. This we know this, right? And so there are a lot of good applications, which if you're interested, I can share some papers. Okay. Nowadays, because of these video games and all that, right? So you need to rotate objects as they are going through the video. And you see GA requires 29 low precision products as compared to conventional algebra based on Euler angles and matrices, which require approximately twice the number of multiplications plus several trigonometric evaluations, all high precision. So you see, this is a very easier way to do, and that's how your speed of your video graphics games jo khelte aap log, that can be completely enhanced if you understand the rotations using geometric algebra. Okay, so a lot of computer science people are also learning geometric algebra now because of its great advantages, right? So, one way is you keep on improving the hardware, but then if you are able to write a better software, then certainly you will get better experience. Okay, right. So today's topic is symmetric top. A symmetric top is what? Basically, a body's symmetric axis is parallel to the unit vector F3. Okay, so F1, F2, F3 are what? They are the body fixed axis. E1, E2, E3 are the space fixed axis. So F3 is, that is, so I1 equal to I2 equal to I, and I3 is not equal to I. That is, such a top is called symmetric top. Okay, spherical top means all three are equal. Okay, so you know all those things, so I will not get into that now. So F3 is fixed in body, so it changes with time as body undergoes free motion. Okay. So yesterday, of course, when we discussed, we ensured that the body is rotating only about F3, but now you're allowing F3 also to move as the, so it's something like an a processing top. Okay, that's the kind of problem we are studying today. So let moment of inertia about F3 be called as I3, and moment of inertia perpendicular to I3 be called I. Okay, that's what we said. I1 equal to I2 equal to I, and I3 is not equal to I. Okay, so angular momentum L about center of mass can be projected into components parallel and perpendicular to F3. Okay, so that is, we can write it as I3 times omega dot F3 times F3. So basically, like this is the projection along the direction of F3, right? Because omega dot F3 will give you the cos angle, right? And into omega also. And that is the F3. F3 is the direction in which F3 exists. Okay. So basically it is I3 omega into F3 cos theta. So that is the projection of the angular momentum along the F3 axis. And this is in a plane perpendicular to F3. That's what is the parallel, and this is the perpendicular. So that is I times omega into F3 times F3. So that gives you the sine theta, right? So obviously, like that is what is the angular momentum. Angular momentum is basically this I is the moment of inertia. Okay, so angular momentum is basically I omega, right? Now you substitute omega into F3 here as omega F3 minus omega dot F3, right? That's because we know how to take the product omega F3. Omega F3 is omega dot F3 plus omega into F3. So we can substitute it like this. Now, second thing is we should also, so that's what I'm doing here. So omega minus omega dot F3 times F3. And this is this. Okay. Now, along with this, we also use that omega F3 times F3 will be equal to omega F3 F3. F3 squared will be 1. So it will be equal to omega. Okay. Remember this. So that if you use, you will get, now you see here, omega dot F3 times F3 plus this. Okay. So if you carefully watch, I have an I omega, which is here, and then I3 minus I, okay, times omega dot F3 times F3, omega dot F3 times F3. So right now, this is what we have done. And so it's a very simple thing till here. Now, what we do is we take a dot product with F3 on both sides. Okay. So when you dot it with F3, you get L dot F3 equal to I times omega dot F3 and I3 minus I times omega dot F3 into F3 into F3, right? F3 into F3 is 1. So that becomes 1. So you get I3 minus I times omega dot F3. So I times omega dot F3 and minus I times omega dot F3 will get cancelled. So you'll be simply left with L dot F3 equal to I3 times omega dot F3. So which means I can substitute for omega dot F3 as 1 by I3 times L dot F3. Okay. And so it's very simple. So you can now substitute back for omega dot F3 in terms of 1 by I3 times L dot F3. That's what we are doing here. So you get I omega plus 1 minus, that's because I3, if you divide, you get I3 by I3 as 1 minus I by I3 times L dot F3 into F3. So basically now we want omega basically, right? So I omega will be equal to, this is what it is, L, and take this other side. So it will become L plus, so here it was I3 minus I. So I write it as I minus I3 by I3 into L dot F3 times F3. So now if you take 1 by this I, this side, you get 1 by I times this whole thing. And now you see what we want is to know how this omega is changing, right? And so we obtained omega in terms of the angular momentum and the two, what do you call this, moment of inertias. Okay, so a free body has no torque in it. So L is a constant, right? You understand that. So we have F3 equal to R E3 R dagger, right? This we have discussed last class. That's what we are saying, that F3 is the body fixed axis, E3 is the space fixed axis, right? So when you rotate it, this E3 with the rotor operator, then you get F3. So you can write omega as in terms of R E3 R dagger like this. So now what is capital omega? That's what we are interested. That is the bivector, right? Because see, this omega is your angular frequency or angle, and this is the angular velocity bivector. Okay, this omega is the angular velocity in the usual sense, the way we have studied in our classical mechanics before. So if you take capital omega is nothing but I times omega. Yes, I should have been careful. Be careful here. This I is a wiggly I. This I is your pseudo-scalar I. Okay, they both are not same. This is not moment of inertia. Okay, this is basically your E1 into E2 into E3. Okay, so L times capital I by this moment of inertia I plus I minus I3 by this. Capital I will come here also, multiplying this. So you get this. And now we know that the entire motion is in the rotor, right? So instead of trying to differentiate the actual coordinates, we are directly dealing with the rotors, right? That is the advantage of using complex numbers or using quaternions or using geometric algebra, right? So we directly want to deal with rotors. This is, I think, something which I did very quickly on that day also, central force motion also. Instead of solving the usual way, I showed you how to solve using the usual way, using geometric algebra. But I also gave you the notes where you can solve using the rotor. And I told you the advantage also, that, right? So here R dot we know is already known, minus half omega R. So omega is known from here. So you substitute for that. And so that you get. So now if you define two quantities, omega 1 and omega 2. So this I minus I3 by this is the wiggly I. Actually, it should have been I3 only. I minus I3 by I3 into L dot F by wiggly I times E3. Okay, this is omega 1. And omega 2 will be L by I. That is this one. Okay. Then, what do you get? If you substitute like this, you will get R dot equal to minus half omega 2 times capital I. This capital I is your E1, E2, E3, the pseudo-scalar of the geometrical algebra of 3 dimensions, times R minus half omega 1 I times capital R. So you can call this I times omega 2 as capital omega 2 and I times omega 1 as capital omega 1. So R dot simply came out to be minus half omega 2 R minus half R omega 1. Okay. So substituting for now, so you can calculate what is R of t. So R of t will be what? This R, you take it down, right? And then dt, dr by dt. So you take the dt on top. So you get exponential minus half omega 2t r naught into exponential minus half omega 1 t. Okay. It's not very difficult. Actually, you can write this as minus half of omega 2 minus omega 1 into r. Okay. So you will basically get r naught exponential minus half times omega 2 minus omega 1 into t. Okay. And because here r naught is, just basically some constant, therefore you can write it as two different parts, nothing else other than that. Here r naught will be chosen as 1 at t equal to 0. What does it mean? That is, at starting point, we are having F3 to be along the same direction as E3. Okay, so motion of body symmetric axis now will be given by, I hope you all got this. This is basically this R can be taken out. So you get minus half times omega 2 minus omega 1. Instead of, see, yesterday we discussed that constant angular velocity, right? Same problem actually. Only thing is, here also there are constants, because this is basically moment of inertia. Moment of inertia of the body won't change. And the angular momentum is constant. That's what I told, because torque is not there, right? So that's why this whole thing is a constant. And similarly, this also is a constant. Okay. And we also chose the, E3 along this omega 1. Okay. And that's what makes it now interesting. So now you see motion of body symmetric axis is given by E3. So E3 is what? R dagger F3R, right? Because we are now taking the inverse relationship. So this will be exponential minus half omega 2t, right? And R of t dagger we have to take, right? And so you get R naught dagger F3 R naught times exponential minus half omega 1 t. Okay. And so is it correct? Let's check this. Minus half omega 2. Check this out, okay? I think something is wrong, because R dagger should contain both, and R also should contain both. So this half might not come, I feel. Okay? Just check this out, please. Something mistake, I think. There's some mistake. So E naught is the initial direction of symmetry axis. And so E naught will be chosen as R naught dagger F3 into R naught. So symmetry axis processes about the angular momentum vector L with constant angular velocity omega 2 equal to L by I. So by observing the free position of the symmetry axis, the angular momentum can be determined. And this is what it is. Okay. Now have a look at the thing. Okay. So this is your, angular momentum axis. And so this is the vector omega 2, which is equal to L by I. Sorry. So if this is your F3, then omega 1 F3 will be in this direction. Okay. So basically there are two types, right? One is oblate and another is prolate. So if omega 1 is less than 0, we call it an oblate. So that's why this direction is opposite to F3. Whereas omega 1 is greater than 0, it will be in the direction of F3. F3 is unit vector. Okay, so this is how it goes. So overall, what happens is you have omega 2 plus omega 1 F3. So these two together will give you omega. So that is how the, so you see here omega is in this direction. That is the top is actually rotating like this about this axis, but then it is also processing about the angular momentum axis. That is how, that's why two processes. Okay. So it's rotating like this, like this, like this, like this, and going around like this. So same thing. This is actually because omega is less than 0. So obviously this will be at a more different angle. Okay. So you see here, the rightmost factor, the first rotation describes rotation of body with constant angular speed of omega 1 about its symmetric axis positioned along some arbitrary direction omega 1 equal to F3. Okay. this one. Okay, so this is positioned along some arbitrary axis, and then the second factor R naught tilts the symmetry axis F3 to a specified direction E naught, and that's what is this. We have it's F3 was originally in this direction, but now in this problem F3 is shifted here. Okay, and so that's because of the omega 1 factor. Okay, and so that is now rotating with respect to that. So R naught is chosen as 1, so F3 will be equal to E naught. Okay, E naught is not E1, E2, E3. It is some other direction in which F3 is actually tilted. Okay, so basically F3 gets tilted with respect to the z-axis, so it comes in that direction. The third factor describes the precession of the body, that is the solution describes the body spinning with angular velocity omega 1 about its symmetry axis while it precesses with angular velocity omega 2. So this rotation is what is called as Eulerian free precession. Okay, so what you would have noticed is this same problem you would have solved using the regular technique of Euler angles, but that is pretty complicated as compared to this. So this is what is the beauty of this. That is, you see here, it's so easily we got the entire motion into the rotor. Okay, so what we did was two steps. First step, what we did was we obtained omega. Okay, and we obtained omega in terms of the angular momentum and the moment of inertias. So because we know symmetric top has this ones, so what we did was we made the angular momentum okay about the center of mass, and we projected it into two components, right? One parallel to F3 and another perpendicular to F3. So that's what gave you the total angular momentum. So angular momentum here becomes a bivector again. Okay, so that's the basic thing. And so this is the basic idea. The central step is this, that is when you get L, you dot it with both sides F3, and that simplifies it, and you can get the omega dot with F3. So this omega dot F3 is what gives you the L by I3 is what gives you omega 1. Okay, so that's what you can see. Basically, because see, what is omega? Omega is the angular velocity vector. Angular velocity vector is if you have a simple spinning top, it's spinning like this, then this is omega, right? So that now is getting actually shifted to the side. Okay, and so basically you see here omega we got in terms of this F3, and then we substituted, we calculated capital omega from it and substituted into the rotor equation. So equations of motion there are actually the Euler equations of motion. Okay, so you use Euler angles, and then there are three equations that you have to solve and all that. Here, the whole equations of motion are shifted away from the angles to that of the rotor. Okay, so that is the simplicity, and that's why you simply have this equation for rotor equation. Yesterday we derived it. So you simply substitute for omega and then define omega 1 and omega 2, and immediately you can see the motion. That's all. Okay, and so this can be easily solved and you get the motion. Okay, so these are the two types of motion, and we are able to explain the entire thing. Okay, so the rightmost factor is first rotation. Okay, and then second one is the R naught dagger F3 R naught, which tilts it, and the third one is it precesses about the angular L, that is the E3 direction with velocity omega 2. So here it is precessing about F3 with velocity omega 1, and then it precesses velocity, angular velocity omega 2. So that is the total thing. So this is, you see, this is why omega 2 is in this direction. Okay, so omega is in this direction. So this is how it rotates and then keeps on rotating and then precesses like this in this. Okay, so I hope you understood the power of this geometric algebraic rotations. This is how it can overall try to simplify the thing. Unfortunately, of course, you don't have any text to follow, but maybe I think I can try to put some PDFs which you should not share with anybody else. Okay, I will try to give you some notes, some PDFs, but do not share it outside because that won't be correct. But because of this COVID situation, I'm going to do that. Maybe I'll let's see. I think on online also there are lots of what you call material available on this, but otherwise the book we are choosing